Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Includability Shorts, a series of short, snappy chats stuffed with hot tips from our incredible includability partner experts. I'm delighted to be joined by the wonderful Cara Wheatley McGrain, health and wellness coach, founder of The Mindful Gut, and author of Calm Your Gut, and of course, one of our brilliant includability ambassadors. Cara, it's so wonderful to see you as always, and we would love you to share your top tips around gut health and how this can support inclusion within the workplace.
Oh, thank you, Dave. Really happy to be here and very excited to share some tips that I hope will be really useful for everybody listening. So, where to begin? Because gut health is such a hot topic. There's so much I could share, but I'm going to just try and essentialize it for bits that will be really helpful for people. So the main thing to know is that actually gut health affects so many people. We think around about 20% of people in the UK have gut health concerns at some point. So that's a significant proportion of folk. And that might be conditions like irritable bowel syndrome, IBS, or the condition that I live with, which is disease, IBD. So these conditions are quite common for folk, and there's things that we can do in the workplace to support them. But also just generally, actually, I want to talk about the wider aspects of gut health, because gut health affects our physical health, but also our mental well-being. And there's some really exciting emerging research around this. So talking about gut health, one of the things is that all of us eat every day, and that food has to move through our system and it goes down into our beautiful guts. And that's the key, is how do we care for this amazing part of our system, amazing part of our body. And we now know that we have within our gut this incredible, very magical microbiome, which is trillions of tiny bacteria that eat what we eat. So when we're making decisions about food in the workplace or at home, it's thinking about how do we care for them. Each year, the average human being eats 35 tons of food. That's amazing, isn't it? So we get to choose that food every year to support us to eat well, not just what we eat, but also how we eat. And many companies now are thinking about having kitchens in their workspace to actually support us to eat real whole foods. And also just thinking about when we may be normally doing our, say we have a celebration at work. Often it's like, let's get the donuts in, let's get the cake in. It's that kind of idea. But actually we can swap that out. We can make kind of slightly different decisions. Should we get a fruit box? Should we get something that maybe has like more diversity, more plants, rather than just going for the cake? Or we could go for the carrot cake or other options. Also, sometimes when we have celebrations at work, let's go for a drink. But maybe we can make it more food orientated, and alcohol is kind of part of it, but not the main piece. So it's just thinking about how we make those decisions in our workspace to really think about how we're supporting gut health, not only for the folk who have gut health conditions, but actually more widely for everybody's physical health. We also know that women are more likely to have gut health conditions than men. And this is quite an interesting area. And we're trying to, as a kind of curiosity, why is that? And what we do know is that women have slightly longer and slightly curvier colons than men. That's unusual. You say, why would women have slightly longer, slightly curvier colons? Well, because women have within their abdominal area additional organs. They have the uterus, and it means we have a slightly kinkier colon. And that might explain, it's one theory about why women have more sensitivity and more gut health concerns than men. And we also know that during women's menstrual cycle, actually we have more symptoms. So the hormone changes that happen during menstrual cycle actually impact the way our digestive system operates. So it's useful to know that. Obviously, men also can have gut health concerns, but it's just being aware of that in kind of our EDI thinking in the workplace, that women might need a little bit more sensitivity around their menstrual cycle, and just awareness that they have more likely to have those gut health concerns. And then I mentioned briefly about mental health, and I'd love to talk a little bit more about that, because obviously all of us are talking and we have more awareness around mental health in the workplace. So what we know is that our gut health and our mental health are very closely interlinked. And in effect, what we know is that these tiny little bacteria within our gut microbiome actually play a really central role in producing key hormones and neurotransmitters that support our mental well-being. So you might have heard of things like dopamine and serotonin. And actually, our tiny little gut bacteria play a really crucial role in creating these hormones and these neurotransmitters that actually are our feel-good hormones that support that sense of well-being and sense of joy and resilience. And actually, to produce these neurotransmitters, our little tiny bacteria need the right fuel, the right foods. So we know they eat what we eat. And for them, they love to break down and digest the foods that our bodies, our human bodies, struggle to. And what they do, so when we're thinking about those beautiful bacteria, what we're thinking about is fiber. So fiber is our friend. So when we eat high fiber foods, actually that supports these tiny bacteria. That's what they love to get there, to munch on. They love to eat fiber. So we're thinking about the skins of fruits and vegetables. We're thinking about all of that diversity of grains, nuts, seeds, all of those things support increasing the fiber in our diet. And sadly, actually, most of us in the UK, we aren't eating enough fiber. So a really wonderful way of actually supporting our physical and mental health is to increase the fiber in our diet. So when I was talking about swapping out maybe the donuts to a fruit basket, actually that can support that increase in fiber in our diet and help us to feel well. There's also another amazing hormone called GABA, gamma-aminobutyric acid is its full name, and that's actually the body's calming hormone. It's a really important neurotransmitter that helps us to feel a sense of our nervous system feeling calmer, and that is also produced by the bacteria in our gut microbiome. So again, if we're fueling them, it actually supports us to kind of regulate and calm our nervous system. So when we're talking about our gut, we're actually talking about really our gut microbiome and supporting those little bacteria to actually do their utmost, to do their best for us. So we've talked a little bit around like making those swap outs. We've talked a little bit around the difference between men and women. We've talked a little bit about the difference between the support of gut health in relationship to mental health. And I also just want to talk about eating out and about and thinking about when we're eating, how we can support ourselves. So if sometimes when I'm working with companies, often they've got people traveling, maybe people are out and about, we've got a lot of hybrid working. Sometimes when we're at home, it's quite easy to make healthy choices for our gut and for our gut bacteria. But when we're out and about, it actually can be quite challenging. And one of my passions is to think about the food system that we're in, like the food environments that we're in. And actually, when we're at a train station, a football match, a movie theatre, when we're maybe kind of just popping out down the road to get our lunch and we're just looking at the shelves of the supermarket, sometimes it's quite hard to make those healthy choices because we maybe have heard the term ultra-processed or highly processed food. And actually, our current food environment, a lot of those choices are quite processed. And that means that the fiber's been stripped out of food and maybe there's been additional chemicals added into the foods. So it's just kind of going, that is actually our food environment at the moment that we're living in the 2020s. But actually by maybe making a packed lunch, by maybe looking for whole foods when we're thinking about what we're making for our lunch break or for our meals or our snacks, maybe by having a handful of nuts or seeds, maybe kind of preparing things like chopping up some carrots or some apples. Maybe this time of year, we're in autumn, thinking about maybe making soups, things that are just easy to reheat. All of those things can be simple ways of supporting us to change our food environment, whether at home or work. And we know that doing those things can really support us to feel healthier, both physically but also mentally. So when we're in the workplace, we're just thinking, how do we support that food environment, that food system in the workplace? Like, where are we sourcing our food? How are we making those decisions to like really supports people to access like fresh water, whole foods as much as possible? And when we're talking about gut health, there's a particular magic number, and that number is 30. So we know there's lots of research showing that if we increase in our diet 30 different plants per week, we actually support ourselves to avoid a lot of different health conditions. So not just gut health conditions, but our wider well-being. It's really protective. And when we say 30 different plants, we're talking not just about fruit and veg, we're also talking about grains and legumes, but also herbs, spices, nuts and seeds. There's lots of different diversity that we can include into our diets every day. So sprinkling a little bit of cinnamon on our porridge in the morning, putting a few chopped fresh herbs into a salad or a grain bowl, all of these can be wonderful and easy ways to increase that diversity across our week. So that's one of my absolute top tips. Go for 30 and start to count up across the week how many different fruit and veg. You can make it a game, you can compare with your colleagues, you can think about bringing in or sharing food and really kind of getting that diversity into your week.